Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel, where we're playing Inkulinati and roasting the chuds. And we're gonna start out with the former. Hola, no Yaguara, ¿cómo estáis? Gracias por saludar. Okay, we're gonna do the Academy this time, show you what this game's all about. How this whole thing actually works. Oh, it's a great game. The Inkulinati masters battle along the margins of medieval manuscripts. In this encounter with a pack of wild beasts, your tiny Inkulinati will be the one to draw your army. What happens during an Inkulinati battle? Use living ink to draw your beasts. That's the tiny Inkulinati there. And okay, I've only got one thing to draw, so I'm gonna draw it. I love them too. I mean, and just the audio of this game is really relaxing, I find. Because Prozoru. Then I need relaxation. I had a long, partially rewarding day. Newly drawn beasts are drowsy, so they have to take a nap, meaning they won't be able to act in this chapter. Mm-hmm. Hey, are you on the Discord? Actually, let me just copy that link into YouTube as well. Actually, let me just copy that link into YouTube as well. Actually, let me just copy that link into YouTube as well. Okay, hopefully that should have worked. And I've averted an endless audio loop just now. Let's see. Yay! Okay, the beast can still take an action after moving in this range. Use the attack action. Yeah, I had forgotten that I had the audio turned on. Hand actions. Ah, yes, we're gonna have... Well, first, I guess we're gonna... get rid of this one. The little weird axe-wielding whatever the hell it is. Ah, yes, the pushing. One of the various boop-type actions. Okay. Not great. Arm salamander, I like that. Oh, damn. Should have seen that coming. Oh, right, this isn't actually a tutorial at all. This is just the one cinematic the game has. And it's a very nicely done cinematic as well. There's, as far as I know, there is exactly one film scene. Right, that's how much living ink you have. Okay, let's start out. An archer. That knight from Monty Python. Different color armor decorations, though. They make very cute little noises. Okay. And... hell, I was just short of 5 there. Amanita? I'm not familiar with it. Okay. She's the one I really want to get, because if you get the tiny Inkulinati, it doesn't really matter what happens to the other creatures that are on the board. I've never heard of any of these games. There we go, on 2 little ink blots. Samarost. Autocrecimiento. This is the beginning of the end of the battle. At first you'll see the field that's going to be affected by the apocalypse in the next chapter. Everything, including your tiny Illuminati, that remains in this field will be destroyed, yes. The apocalypses are bad news. I guess that kind of comes from the name. Oh, interesting. I'll have to check it out. This, I believe, is Polish. Okay, now I win. Okay, alewife time. I want gold. This is a remarkably strategic game. I mean, some of these are just extremely positional sort of battles. It's very much like chess in some ways. Except with cuter figures. Oop. Yes, he did just fart through a trumpet. That is, in fact, what has just happened. Boop. And there we are. Whee! And there we go. Okay. Either go to the Bard and spend gold? Nah. Yeah, none of these things seem like a good idea. I should get... Is there a way to just get the hell out of there? Okay, out of those, I guess we'll go with health. These little fuckers explode. That's their thing. They explode. It makes them very complicated to deal with, because if you kill them, they also end up doing damage to you when they die, because they explode. And there we go. That's why a spear is handy, because you can be 2 fields away. 2 fields away, it's not going to hurt you. And here you are. This is a small pot of beans. It will explode if you kill it. The more of these ink blots you're standing on, the more ink you get to draw new little beasties. Yes, an exploding pot. Lots of things explode in this game. And you can infect people with the plague, which helps the economy, apparently. Porque luego la peste se bueno, se muta y se convierte en buena persona, po. Okay, and it doesn't matter that this is going to actually cause damage, because we just won. Team Alewife just won. There's a metro station up in Boston called Alewife. And I recently discovered that Boston actually has a Chilean sandwich restaurant called Chacarero. So I was looking at Chacarero to find like an explainer for somebody who's doing this like sandwich league table. Ah, sí, es cierto. Acá también. Acá es como 500,000 de personas que normalmente estaría trabajando, pero no puede porque está muerta. Y sí, y bueno, y según el gobierno de acá, ese poder de negociación que tienen los trabajadores es una gran urgencia. Lo del tren que explotó, no, no, para nada. La peste tampoco es una emergencia. La otra peste, RCB, tampoco un caso de urgencia, no hay que hacer nada. Pero el poder de negociación de los trabajadores va subiendo y hay que puro aplastar a los sindicatos. Porque eso sí que es un caso de urgencia, según el gobierno nuestro. Que ni cagando se va a mutar para convertirse en buena persona. Nica. Nicaragua. Okay. That's all I get to do for now. You stand on these things, you get health. Yeah. It is a really rather fucked up time to be living through, I have to say. Oh, that's one of mine, is it? Hehehehe. Yes, I get the three-headed dog. El negro mata, 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 Paco, Paco, Paco. Boop. Trancapecho. ¿Y qué tiene? ¿Qué tiene el trancapecho? Ya me encanta el nombre, mo. Hello, Phoenix. Welcome. Yes, yesterday on the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel, we got to watch a sneak preview of Vosh starring in the animated hit The Land Before Class Analysis. Where we learned just how important it is to actually have class analysis, because otherwise... Ok, tranca pecho. Tengo que ver, weón. Tengo que ver qué tiene esta weá. Ahí. Holy shit. Okay. That is a, like... That sandwich looks like it could eat La Paz. I mean, I don't even see how you eat that. I mean, the bun looks like it's, like, completely overwhelmed by it. I'm curious, though. It looks good. Shit. Okay, let's see. Mint? Fuck, it's mint. Okay. Half a kilo of mince, 4 eggs, 8 potatoes, buns, ground bread, ground pepper, rice, an onion, 2 tomatoes, 2 rocoto. Oye, rocoto y locoto son la misma cosa, ¿no? And 4 buns. Ramita de quirquiña, pica sal, locoto, despepitado. Holy shit, this is... like... that if you held that sandwich up in space, it would actually cause an eclipse. Oh well, of course you can't not have potatoes. Potatoes are essential. Are rocoto and locoto the same ají, or are they different? Ah, chucha. And this is where we win. Oh no, this isn't where we win because I can't... I can't boop. I need to be able to boop, and I cannot boop. So we'll just add another swordsman. I kinda thought so. But I've never seen them in the same place at once, so... Oh, hey, now... Oh, now I can just... Now I can boop. Booping is one of the most important things your tiny Inkulinati can do. Yes, take all. Yes, all ají are beautiful. Condimentar la carne molida con sal, pimienta y formar unas pequeñas pulitas y golpear en un batán con el pan molido hasta que sea grande. En una olla hacer cocer las papas con cáscara. Luego pelar, cortar en 4 pedazos redondos, cada uno freír. Son papas fritas además, weón. Okay, I need to make this fucking sandwich. This, wow. That's amazing. And in Bolivia, it must take forever to list the ingredients. Because everybody seems to have the, like, calmest, most unhurried speech I've ever heard in the Spanish language. Like, and they're right next to, like, 3 different countries where everybody talks super fast. And they just take their time. I think that's cool. Also, like, the clearest speech you will find in the Southern Cone type region. Oh, this one is another one of the exploding assholes. And here we have medieval Yoda. See, everything that this guy does, it causes an explosion. He's like Northern Southern Railway. I mean, Norfolk Southern Railway. Oh, I bet. I mean, Chile, that is like the fastest speaking people in the Spanish speaking world. And then everybody leaves out every other consonant. And so nothing sounds like what it's written as. I mean, there's just no way to know exact. You have to. It takes a lot of getting used to unless you've just been around it a lot. Whereas like Peru, Colombia, Bolivia, everybody sounds like a Spanish teacher. Get on top of that ink blot. And there we go. How out of control. Oh well. That simplifies matters a bit. Get on that nice big ink blot. Oh shit. Holy shit, for a month? That's for a month? That is off the hook. Oh, okay, I was gonna say, that's like the kind of bills they're getting in Britain now. Like, a friend of mine was comparing his gas bill for this year to last year's, and it was like he paid 25, 30 quid this month last year, and this year, for the same amount of gas, they want him to pay like 226. It's just unbelievable. There's a lot of money in dipshit streaming. Oh, God, believe me, I can imagine. I have been in this very situation a few times. The apocalypse is beginning. Yeah, this country just makes it ridiculously hard too. Some of these things are so much easier anywhere else you go. Here they just have to make everything a fucking misery to go through. All the fucking means testing and the other bullshit. Damn. Oh, I'm getting my ass kicked here. That's getting pretty clear. Oh, hell. Oh, fuck. Okay. Jesus. Food stamps. Oh. That is just... I am so sorry. Yay! Oh, welcome to the Discord, Noir. Good to see you. And I'm just gonna... Well, yeah, if you'd like, I'm just gonna drop your, your fundraising link. Phoenix, do you want me to drop that link in chat again? Sometimes these things spill out. It just happens when it happens. Okay. And now comes the dunking of chuds. Okay, we've got a few interesting options here. We've got some Tim Pool bullshit, that's always good. Capitalism is voluntary. Thought slime debunked by Libertarian Scott. I'm kind of curious about that one. That should be good for a few laughs. Disney slammed for woke Proud Family reboot, crying about white fragility. Rockstar says he was fired from major band for supporting Donald Trump. Oh, and Caleb Muppet, fake woke leftists triggered by anti-war coalition rally that is full of fash. Full of just some of the dodgiest motherfuckers you could ever want to meet. Well, let me see. I'm kind of curious about just doing capitalism is voluntary. Just to have somebody new in here. I don't know anything about Libertarian Scott. But I have a feeling that Libertarian Scott is going to bring us much mirth. Okay, let me just make sure that crop is where it needs to be. My legs are tired. I spent the entire day making bomboloni. And the cream to stuff them with came out really nicely. The bomboloni did not come out quite as well as I would have liked, unfortunately. Apply.
A popular argument you'll come across in critique of capitalism is on the voluntarism, is to say that capitalism isn't voluntarist. Thoughts?
Well, okay. I have to say, just about everything improves by saying it in a Scottish accent. Bomboloni is the Neapolitan version of a cream-filled donut. Except the Neapolitan version is way better. Mine didn't come out exactly as they were supposed to. Oh, I have to update stream info.
Slime goes on to argue in response on someone else's quote.
Here's something that ANCAPs and ANCOMs alike don't actually know. You can live without a job. You just want to live luxuriously. Finding
Yeah, you just won't live luxuriously without luxuries like food and a roof.
YouTube channel called Primitive Technology. Every single person who currently lives in poverty, semicolon, if they really tried, semicolon, could walk out into the wilderness and live in the Paleolithic era.
First of all, thoughts
And okay, that is something people say to take the piss out of. Oh, it's so much better than a donut when it's done properly, which in this case it was not. This is something people say to take the piss out of right libertarians. It's actually wild to see one arguing it.
Slime is taking this guy way out of context. In other words, what this guy is basically saying is the fact that if you don't like capitalism, good luck moving in the opposite direction. Good luck getting rid of everything of what capitalism produces. And
Okay. So what he's saying is, Thought Slime's saying, I think society should improve in certain ways, and he's saying, and yet you live in society. Interesting. I am very intelligent. Hello, Shakespeare. First of all, capitalism didn't actually make those things. Workers made that shit.
creates all the capital that is readily made available.
I mean, really, this is just a poorly construed
Wow, this is really an old-ass video from Thought Slime. He hasn't used this graphic for a very long time.
version of the most common rebuttal I get to any content I make that criticizes capitalism. Hey guy, capitalism is voluntary. I mean, if you think about it, that's the moral basis for free market capitalism. The market is made up of people making choices to trade things with one another. So don't complain about it because it's your choice, you knucklehead. You can just pack your bags and move away. Build a new, non-capitalist society, like Richard Black suggests. Just walk into the woods and build yourself a mud hut.
Again, Thought Slime really doesn't comprehend the difference between socialism theoretically to that of practice. Throughout recorded history, socialism has always ended in totalitarianism.
Yeah, because capitalism has done such a good job of avoiding totalitarianism, except for, Pinochet, Hitler, Videla, fucking Mussolini, kind of constantly. Yeah, this really is ancient. Oh god, yes, women with a fucking Glasgow accent, absolutely send me.
It was never really the case of it being democratic or libertarian. It's all well having that as a theory and believing in such a thing of what the likes of Kropotkin had argued, but that is it. It's
maybe what he's kind of coming to is that actually, if it isn't democratic, it isn't socialism in the first place. You don't see what he's doing is he's saying these societies claim to be socialist, and they were awful. And now we'll leave that aside, but the thing is they also claim to be democratic, every single one of them. Every single one of the societies that he's, sort of painting with an extremely broad brush here. All of them also claim to be democratic. So if you're going to use their claim to be socialist as an attack on socialism, yeah, there's no way you can't also use their claim to be democratic as an attack on democracy.
theory. In practice, he has the choice to leave a country that does have private ownership to a certain degree and go and live in a country where there's very little of a private sector left. And the reason
okay, that's not how any of that works, because the thing is, capitalism is still capitalism if the government owns shit. When the British government used to own the steel industry, the railways, the fucking wharves, the shipbuilding industry, all sorts of other shit, it was still capitalism.
The reason why they would never do so is because they're an economic catastrophe. But it's always a case that
Yeah, I mean, it's like anytime somebody tries to break away from the US orbit and try to do their own sort of thing and try to make some kind of a socialist experiment. Somehow, every time, the US immediately manages to cancel all their debt rescheduling, block all their imports, and essentially do everything possible to make the people starve. So obviously, inherently, the problem is what those people in that country are doing. Like, if you, just like when somebody leaves an abusive relationship and the abuser then goes and kills them, that's because leaving abusive relationships is inherently a bad idea. It's not because the abuser's a prick. It's because leaving is dangerous. It's like impressive to hear. I mean, this is such basic. Yeah, India claims to be so. Yeah. India does explicitly claim to be socialist in the preamble to their constitution.
That, oh, that isn't real socialism.
If no
Well, yes, but the thing is, words actually have meanings, and when people are talking about what they. If people say, I'm for socialism, and you say, but socialism sucks shit, and you use some bullshit definition you came up with of socialism, you're not actually attacking what they're for, you're just changing the subject, is the thing. That's the thing. But that's actually what you're doing. You're not criticizing what they're for. You're saying, no, we're not talking about that. That you can't actually criticize what they're for when what they're for is actually a completely different thing to the thing that you're using as a counterexample.
Nobody on Earth was disabled, infirm, needed medicine, or lived in an area with an inhospitable climate. Also, everyone had access to the huge tracts of land needed to grow food without modern infrastructure. Also, the capitalist societies that they currently live in, just let them go, and also waive property taxes for this anti-capitalist experiment.
Yeah, I mean, not to... yeah, and you have to acquire the land, and you have to just hope that it doesn't get eminent domained a little while, a little ways down so somebody can build a fucking shopping center there.
Also, the capitalists wouldn't just take all your stuff if you started making something profitable or useful to them, even though they'd have the largest militaries in the world at their back, and you literally live in a mud hut. Also, you don't care about leaving your friends, family, and home behind? But, okay, alright, but even granting all of those things, it's still a pretty raw deal.
Slime doesn't really have much faith in humanity, and you'll
Well...
remember...
It's not faith in humanity that is lacking when somebody says capitalism sucks shit and the state won't let somebody actually try to prove that there's something better than capitalism possible. That's just a lack of faith in capitalism. Oh, well, no, it's actually a faith that capitalism will do exactly what it exists to do.
From the previous video, he goes on about that of the dog-eat-dog world, and then he contradicts himself and he says about he doesn't view humanity as greedy, and...
Well, yes, he isn't contradicting himself. He's saying that the capitalist system inherently causes conflicts that don't have to exist. That it is, literally, I mean, this guy, it's not very clear to me. And I'm beginning to wonder, this guy is just literally, this is just his fucking living room. He doesn't have an actual streaming setup, and he has, are those Rangers colors? Is this a Rangers fan? Fucking hell. Yeah.
And he has faith in humanity. Well, the fact is, when someone believes in forcing redistribution of wealth...
You mean the way capitalism was formed?
Someone believes in forcing people to share. What that's basically saying to you is, they do not have faith in people being left be to themselves because they think that, well, they would not provide for others.
Except we already know that when rich people don't have to provide things to the working class, they don't. Unless it somehow directly affects the working class's ability to work for them. Oh god, he's got a Stephen Sharma documentary.
Ethic of socialism is coercion. So capitalism
No, it fucking isn't.
is basically about the redistribution of wealth through charitable means, through the voluntary action. So
Oh, yes, that's if you skip over the redistribution of wealth that had to happen so that rich people would have all that accumulated wealth that they can then deduct from their taxes by claiming to be charitable with it.
socialism's got nothing to do with the voluntary action. Socialism's about communal ownership. It's about coercion. It's about forcing others
How exactly do you force others when you don't have power over them?
to share, and they've got no other means but to do so. And at the end of the day, see if you get rid of capitalism and he's going down this road of you go in the opposite direction, you will lose liberty. You will end up in the direction
What liberty do you have right now? Like, literally, if you if you talk shit about your boss, if you complain about your job on social media, your boss sees it, it's totally legal for them to fire you. I mean, in Britain, not so much. Although they could get away with it initially, and you'd have to go to a fucking tribunal, and that would be his argument. But around here, of course, it is absolute rule.
of the Soviet Union.
Would you accept living in a communist dictatorship under the proviso that you could, if you so chose, walk into the woods and start a new society? Would having that option make the actions of a communist dictator just? No, obviously not. Having the option to flee a system does not make that system voluntary, it just gives you the option of becoming a refugee.
Again, Thought Slime doesn't
Yeah, he's... Okay, let's see how he deals with this.
understand practice to that of the theories. All this theoretical
Well, let's talk about I mean, you're saying in theory, people can leave capitalism, they can become refugees, and therefore capitalism is voluntary.
nonsense, and you hear it all the time. It's this theoretical nonsense about, but socialism's workers' ownership of this, workers' ownership.
But no, he's talking about capitalism right now. He's literally talking about capitalism right now in practice. Are you gonna deal with? Is this guy gonna deal with any of that?
Of that. Well, that's all well said and done, but what's the entity that carries out the nationalisation? What's the entity that's going to get rid of the private sector?
The fucking working class. It's the fucking working class that carries out the end of the private sector. It's the fucking working class, organised as a fucking class, that goes and does that. And if it's not them doing it, it's not fucking socialism.
Government. Now, you'll never get an answer to it. They talk
Yes, you'll get a fucking answer. I just gave you the answer. I mean, it isn't hard to find this answer. You can find this answer basically like any 101 text on any of these ideas.
about getting rid of the private sector. What's the entity that does it? It's the government. And you're going to need a specific character, a specific leader that's going to lead you there. Now, it's not
No, that's not how any of that works.
going to be the likes of your Jeremy Corbyn or that.
Oh, well, like, you mean, see, capitalism would never do this. You would never have, fucking rich pricks like, say, I don't know, Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk being presented as these, fucking genius, charismatic leaders who are going to bring us to a bright future and we should just do what they all say because they own everything anyway.
Of your Bernie Sanders type, that don't really have the gall to do it. It's going to be somebody like your Nicolas Maduro. That's what it requires. The reason why it requires a dictator.
That's the best example he can come up with. Because the thing about Maduro is that he has better human rights record than the countries neighboring him, to the extent that that Venezuela has a huge number of refugees from neighboring countries.
It goes against the economics. To completely abolish the private sector is to
It goes against the economics. Which economics?
abolish the productive sector. Public
Wait, nobody's talking about what is the productive sector. That's there's no such thing as the productive sector. That goes against the economics. The whole point of the sectors thing in the economics, you see, is that there are different sectors producing different things in different ways. That's what we're talking about. There's no, productive and non-productive sector. It's just different stuff that's being produced.
sectors know the productive sector. The public sector lives off the fruits of what the private sector produces. And
That's complete bullshit, too. Because, I mean, just take high-tech industry. Take the technology I'm using right now to stream this shit and that you're using in order to watch it. Yeah, pretty much all of this was developed with money from the Pentagon. Pretty much every single bit of the foundation of this was developed either directly by the state sector in the major research universities, or DARPA grants, or all sorts of other shit. The state created this technology. I mean, it's the same thing with your fucking vaccines, with pretty much every pharmaceutical product that's worth having. All of that stuff, all the basic research is done in the public sector. It is an extremely bad business decision to invest in fundamental research, because you're going to be spending billions for possibly decades, and you may have fuck all to show for it on the end.
And this is the thing, you get rid of the private sector that finances the economy, where else are you going to turn to? You're going to turn to the printing press. That's not going to do you so well. And if you're going to argue...
Wait, you're going to turn to the printing press?
For the moneyless-based economy, that's just...
Oh, he means to print money.
Mental. I already argued and I stated the fact that, economists widely agree nobody would ever accept a 100% income tax, which is the...
Well, why would you have a 100% income tax in a moneyless society? You wouldn't have tax in a moneyless society because there's... See, this is kind of I'm going to let you in on some insider socialist knowledge, but in a moneyless society, there's no fucking money.
Equivalent to basically a moneyless based economy, because you're earning nothing. So that is naturally where socialism leads. It's not by accident. It happens because that's
not what it means to have a moneyless society. It doesn't mean there's money but it's taken from you. It means that rather than having to accumulate money in order to buy stuff that we need in order to live, that stuff just gets produced and it's available to us. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that, it isn't a moneyless economy and that the money just gets taken off you and somebody else has it.
That's what happens when you try to oppose the economy.
I mean, if that's what a moneyless society is, then I would say, probably roughly half the US population is currently living in a moneyless society. Because, I mean, there's not a whole lot of money in their part of the society.
That's socialism for you.
The idea that anyone can walk away from their current civilization into the woods and start a new society from scratch is a fantasy.
It's funny how he talks about that of a fantasy, because that's exactly what socialism is when you...
Yeah, but maybe deal with what he's saying here, because it is a fantasy, because where's these woods that are not under the jurisdiction of any state?
Speak about this idea of socialism avoiding totalitarian governance. That basically is a fantasy. It's a fantasy because the Paris Commune was heading down that direction. It was...
Well, no, I mean, that's an interesting way of putting it. I mean, because you could say that it actually ended up in that direction, but that's because but that was literally the French government taking back over that did that.
Turning towards the dictatorial rule. In his previous argument, he says, well, we're going to need a specific entity to basically dictate to people that you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to...
No, he very specifically does not say that.
Abide by these specific rules. Well, when you've got an entity there and it's a set group of people that are setting down rules for other folk, and...
Oh, except that it's everybody doing that.
You have to abide by these specific rules. That...
You mean kind of like in capitalism where bosses can... where I don't technically own any of the software I've got, because the capitalists who get to profit off of the sales of it have their lawyers draft license agreements that mean that the shit that's on my computer, it is actually illegal for me to exercise total control over it, despite the fact that I've paid the full price for it.
Is the definition of governance. You might not call it a government. Doesn't matter what you call it.
Okay, if making rules for other people... If there's a body of people who can just make rules for other people and the other people just have to live with it, and it doesn't matter whether it's technically called a government or not, it's just a government, then, well, that's the capitalist class, bub.
That's the definition to govern. When you govern, you are the one that's an entity, a group of people that is dictating and try to control other folk. And the funny thing was, we saw exactly that Chaz, basically the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, where they started setting down rules. Oh, here's a segregated area for black people.
Oh god, this is how old this is. There's the Chaz was still one of the fucking talking points. Yes, cats like to have the full attention of our hands.
Only, and segregated farming and all the rest of this, and you have to do this and you have to do that. In other words, it was quickly centralising towards its own wee type of government. That's what happened with the
Its own wee type of government. Well, see, the thing is, what he's saying is that people were making decisions. That decisions were taken by people. And the idea that people might have everybody participating in that might have just gotten together and said, this is a good idea, this is a thing we should do, and everybody just kind of agreed with it. Although that does not seem to have been the case with what they did with the police station, which was a big fucking mistake. I mean, just letting the cops back into the fucking thing. But yeah, he can't conceive of the idea that people might just make decisions rather than having them imposed on them.
whole thing you saw of anarchist Catalonia. There never was anarchy. It was a terror group that formed that tried to dictate to other folk, and it was the same thing in the
well, no. I mean, there was still the fucking Spanish state, and that was kind of trying to do that. And there was the fascists. They were doing that.
This commune. You see, in the real world, socialism, it doesn't accept personal ownership of property at all.
That's bullshit. I mean, personal ownership. What kind of property are we talking about? Are we talking about your your fucking personal property? Or are we talking about fucking real estate? Are we talking about the fucking means of production?
It doesn't. So, well, folk that, were theorists, and they write down about how socialism can be this and socialism can be that.
You mean sort of like Milton Friedman said that capitalism would increase people's freedom and then went on to advise a fucking dictatorship?
How's that turned out in practice each and every single time? It's a fantasy in and of itself to believe that socialism can be libertarian or even democratic.
It's not like Minecraft. You can't just walk into the woods, punch a few trees, and build a village. All of the land
He's
and
just not even
resources
responding to
are either
Thoughtful's
owned
argument here.
privately or assumed to be de facto owned by whatever government lays claim to your particular location.
Forget the argument for a second here on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've been doing that anyway. It isn't for a second. You've been doing that the whole time. You haven't responded to one thing yet.
Centralised agriculture, because I've beat it to death, and I even covered it in a previous argument in response to Thought Slime. That will lead down the road to starvation, right? You know that. He's going on about the fact that you can't just do this and you can't just do that. Well, that's the funny thing. Again, it goes to that thing about the fantasy.
Well, yes, that the idea that capitalism is voluntary is a fantasy because you can't opt out.
Faced with the economic calculation problem, if you destroy the information of profits and losses, you can forget efficiency, because there's no way for you to know what resources you're going to use.
Except that profits and losses, well, this is actually a very popular sleight of hand. Because the idea is they'll say, for-profit system is more efficient. But the thing is, they're literally defining efficiency as profit. So yeah, by definition, a system that makes more profit is more efficient as long as we take profit and efficiency to be synonyms. I mean, this is actually starting to bore me, this guy. As much as I enjoy that Glaswegian accent, I have let's see, I think we're gonna look at some Pim Tool.
Let me pull up this clip here.
Sure.
We have it from End Wokeness.
Oh, and incidentally, if you look at the bottom of the screen, I have finished funding the translation of the introduction of Kolonthai's Social Basis of the Female Question, and I'm nearly halfway to the halfway mark of funding Chapter 1. I expect to finish the translation of the introduction tomorrow. I'll have that up on my Patreon as a public post. And then as soon as I get another, what do I have left? Like 900 something or other, then I will be doing chapter 1. And I'm half of the way as it is. So I'm very excited about that.
Is the name of the Twitter account.
Yeah.
And it's this viral clip from the Proud family. This tweet has 7.2 million views.
Good.
Oh, it says 2.2 actually, but...
So maybe what Disney is doing with these ridiculous cult shows is trying to get us to talk about it, promote it. But let me play for you this clip.
It
which
sounds
is gonna,
like they don't need you to promote it, Tim, if they've already got 2.2 million views. It seems like maybe your audience aren't the people who would be watching this.
It's gonna numb your brain. You're gonna be so angry. So let's just play. Let's play it.
Yeah, let's see what numbs Tim Pool's brain.
We'll try and make sure it's not too loud to start. But here we go. Wait, hold on. Up. We switch the audio. I got it. Let's switch the audio over and then try again.
Oh, you understand love, don't you?
No, I do not understand anything about white fragility.
White fragility? What's that supposed to mean?
You know what it means. You're doing it right now.
Doing what?
Being defensive about race. Robin DiAngelo wrote a whole book about it. Read it.
Yet again,
on page 39.
same
Not on page 39.
cover and everything.
My dad wouldn't even look at the diary. He said his people would never own slaves. How could he just dismiss me like that? White fragility. Oh, Brother Kwame.
Okay. So this is apparently gonna piss everybody in his audience off. They're just looking for shit to get pissed off at.
Brother Kwame, tell us about white fragility. There's Brother Kwame. He's gonna teach the kids what's really going on with critical.
You know, rewinding it isn't going to cause more dialogue to occur.
Race theory.
That's one of the Hodge twins right there.
They actually show the book. This is a Disney show, and here's the thing: the two characters that are arguing. This is an interracial gay couple. The crazy thing about it is, we as adults who understand psychological manipulation and cults and things like that.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah, I guess in his line of work, to do psychological manipulation, you do have to understand something about how it works.
They understand that it is a fallacy to be like, if you are defensive, therefore it proves it. Like, you literally can never defend. It's a paradox. And that's what white fragility is.
Okay. No, that's not actually what it is. And, yeah, sometimes defensiveness does indicate that something is, that there's something to an accusation, especially when no accusation has actually been made. Hell, you can even quote the fucking Bible on that one. The guilty man fleeth where no man... The guilty flee where no man pursueth. In other words, if you're being, like, if you're getting extremely defensive, you're getting your back up about something's going on there, and maybe it's because there's something to what the person's saying, maybe it's because they're full of shit as well. You can't just say from one thing, it can be a reaction to a number of things. But it is also this thing. This thing also does exist.
If you're a white person, and
I still don't understand what it means.
It means the idea is white people are very fragile. It's meant to insult and incite an emotional response to make you angry, thus eliciting a reaction that.
I don't think it's meant to insult, and it's actually just talking about a phenomenon the author has observed, and that the author is by no means alone in observing.
You can use to justify what you're saying to others. So, an example of a scenario. Let's say you accuse Phil of being racist.
Okay, which seems like that's totally out there to suggest that somebody on the Timcast IRL family might be racist
because he's white and therefore. Phil then says that
maybe also because he's on a fucking white supremacist podcast.
That's not fair because you immediately interrupt and say, you are fragile, which is an insult to anybody, right? But here's what happens.
Well, here you are being fucking fragile, though. I mean, you're like you said, your mind was numbed by all of the anger about this. That sounds kind of fragile to me, bro.
The average person gets offended by being called fragile, and then you turn to everyone and say, see, look how angry he's getting. He's irrational.
It's narcissistic personality disorder behavior 101.
No, it isn't. That's not anything to do with that.
But actually, what they're writing about white fragility is psychological manipulation 101.
But but that's what the kinds of minds that conjure this kind of double speak, and this is actually abuse.
It's abuse.
If you were
Exactly.
Yes, this is actually abuse. Say the three people on the white supremacist
relationship with a partner, and they were like, I don't like that you said this way, and you.
Well, notice, I mean, the thing is, the way they showed that clip, I don't know if the clip was leaving this out or not, but we didn't actually get to see what the fucking conversation before that was. Like, we literally did not see what preceded. I don't know if that's Tim Pool's clever manipulation, or if that's just that clip started out at the end of an exchange when it should have started out at the beginning of it.
You interjected and said you're being fragile. You're abusing them because you're making a statement and you're intentionally causing emotional distress.
Well, no, you're not intentionally. If you're making that statement, 9 times out of 10, you're making that statement because you're observing something and you're saying that this is what you think is happening. You aren't specifically, I mean, it's interesting that these three guys consider that they can't imagine that somebody would say something in a relationship because it is literally just what they genuinely think is going on. The idea of actually being honest doesn't occur to them.
And then you're not allowing them to respond. And then when they do respond, you're taking their response as an act of aggression. And
well, except that you're cutting off the chronology in a weird way, because what's the exchange that happens before? Because somebody's not just going to say, you're being fragile apropos of nothing. There would have been something that came before. I'm guessing that fucking... I haven't read it, and I've heard very mixed reviews about it, mostly to do with how liberal it is to some extent. But, I mean, the point is that something preceded the observation of the white fragility. Probably a defensive reaction designed to derail a conversation about racism.
And therefore, you're abusing them emotionally.
The white fragility boils down to any attempt at explaining why you reject racism.
Oh, well, I don't think that's the case.
Is proof you are racist. That's what white fragility is meant to represent.
Yeah, no, it is not about explaining why you reject. It's actually trying to explain away something that was that it was racist that you said.
Ridiculous, and you're exactly right. It is manipulation. It's abuse, and that's the entirety of the. I'm trying to think of the best way to word it. It's the entirety of critical theories when applied in it's praxis, I guess they call it. But it's
God, that is the entirety of critical theory when applied in praxis. Is just wow. I mean, see, I ruined my fucking eyesight reading all the critical theory stuff, going absolutely blind on it. And here it turns out that all it is just you say you're being fragile, and that's it.
It's the entirety of critical theories when applied to everyday life. You look for a way to make the power dynamic, make yourself a victim in the power dynamic, and then you use that against the person you're talking.
Well, no, the whole point of critical theory is that the power dynamic already exists, and people don't need to see. Outside of the fucking right-wing bullshitosphere, people aren't actively trying to find ways to position themselves as the victim in the power dynamic. People are actually kind of already there and would like very much not to be. These are the people who are absolutely obsessed with trying to claim that they're somehow oppressed. Like with fucking PragerU claiming that they're censored because they're not getting the full algorithmic boost they feel that they have coming to them.
Whether it be race or whether it be LGBT issues or whether it be feminism, it's always a manipulation.
Yeah, and you can see how destructive this is because you hear the voice of, I guess, this couple's daughter being like, "My dad wouldn't even look at this. Like, how could he be this way?" So,
well, again, it's very convenient that we're not actually getting to see what came before because it allows them to act like the whole thing was apropos of nothing.
Seeds of doubt in this already complicated family structure.
She has it's
already
both of her dads they're an interracial gay couple. So
now she has one dad who is speaking correctly and one dad who's actually racist.
But here's the other thing: like if you're in a interracial couple and your partner feels like this, why did you get married and have a kid?
Maybe because the idea was, maybe because we live in a society and everybody's got some of this fucked up shit inside them and it's a matter of how you deal with them. And I don't know, maybe people, I've never been married, so I haven't got the slightest fucking idea what possesses anyone to do it. But, yeah. It seems to me that maybe they got married because they actually rather enjoy each other's company and would like to have a family together. And not because there's a total absence of fucking conflict.
How can you make it to that point?
Oh, buenas noches, Guayaguara. Qué bueno verte. Gracias por unirte al Discord.
You know, like if you feel like your white partner is racist, how can you get to the aisle and say we should get married and we should have a life together?
But hold on, but not even that. How can you assume your gay white partner is racist if he's marrying you?
Yeah.
Because that does not... Jesus. Because racists are in interracial relationships a lot, actually. Even people who are like anti-miscegenation make exceptions for themselves a lot of the time. Racist ideology is not consistent. It doesn't actually make sense. It is not internally coherent a lot of the time. And yeah, people can have racist attitudes and not be, like, explicitly racist. Like, I mean, this is a stream specifically for the more explicitly racist crowd who need to be told that just because you like to say racial slurs and shit, that doesn't make you racist, because nothing's actually racist. It's all apparently abuse or something. I don't know. But yeah. The thing is, this is like the arguments they're making here. It's fascinating watching this after watching Vosh yesterday, because they're making the same fucking arguments Vosh did. This is the same level as Vosh. They are like diving in the same 2-inch deep water as Vosh.
Yeah. Well, that's like Ilhan Omar, AOC, like all these, everybody, Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
They all
AOC's boyfriend. Hold on. He is as ginger as it comes. If I remember correctly,
he represents the
Who cares?
white person and all the white
I mean, you look like a fucking bridge troll. Why? Who gives a shit if he's ginger?
person jokes.
Yeah, he does.
I don't even know what he looks like, but I find it wildly comical. When the George Floyd riot.
See, these guys are just such fucking Adonises. You can see why they have appointed themselves the judge of men's looks.
It's happened. I posted a picture of me. So my old Instagram was deleted, right? And I had posted a picture holding a blue line flag in whatever city in front of like 20,000 people. And I wrote this whole thing about, I'm against police brutality, but I don't need
Then why are you holding up the fucking pro-police brutality flag?
My white friends to feel, I don't need white people to be ashamed of being white. That doesn't cure racism.
Wait, so the idea, He held up the flag that white nationalists fly in order to say that they like it when cops kill black people. Because he wanted his white friends to know he didn't want them to be ashamed to be white, which apparently they would think he would want them to be if he didn't hold up the white nationalist flag that celebrates cops murdering black people. That is just such a coherent statement. It makes so much sense.
And most of what CRT does is not about equality. And this is what's gone wrong with so much of the leftist ideology, whether it's...
Yeah, because if there's one thing that leftists absolutely love, all us commos just love that CRT.
Whether it's critical race theory or LGBTQ rights, or people...
Those aren't the same kind of thing. One is a theoretical framework. The other is like a demand for a really just basic thing that should be taken for granted.
And feminism, third wave feminism, people are not fighting for equality. They're fighting for advantage.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, any of these issues, it's hard to even address seriously anymore because it's so blatantly bullshit.
Well, maybe you should try to address them seriously. It would help if you actually knew something about them.
They can't put it on adults, and now they're transcribing and attacking children, and families are gonna.
As opposed to apparently the left is attacking children. The far right is sending fascists with guns to point them at kids who go to fucking drag queen story hours. But we're the ones attacking kids. Not them.
How do you even have this conversation with your kid?
There's the intent.
There's a saying that...
I mean, they're fucking only passing laws, which Tim Pool celebrates these laws. He has gone totally mask off when it comes to that. I mean, it was the vilest thing I've ever seen. And vilest thing I've ever seen him do. Anyway. And I'm not looking at it on here because, I mean, it is just one fucking trauma trigger after another. It is just so profoundly disgusting what he did. But, so, I mean, we got these laws that are just, I mean, totally just amount to fucking genocide against trans people. It is an explicitly stated objective. And some of it's already law, some of it is about to become law. We already have a fucking internal refugee population because of that, but it's the left that's attacking children.
Everybody's dealt a different hand, and it's about how you play the cards. So some people get good cards, some people get bad cards, but you got to make the best of it. The funny thing is,
well, what if we had a society that didn't deal people bad cards? Where you just got good cards. Why should anyone be getting bad cards? Why exactly? What did anyone do to deserve bad cards upon birth?
A bunch of poker analogies in the next couple of weeks because I've been...
Yeah, that's actually not a really good analogy anyway, because the thing about the poker is the whole thing is about bullshitting people into believing that you've got a better hand than you've got. And that just doesn't work in this context.
I'm playing Hold'em quite a bit. But I was playing this past weekend. Some dude won a massive pot with the worst possible hand you could have. He had 7-2 offsuit. He bluffed his way into it.
I'm guessing he bluffed Tim. I'm guessing that he got a lot of money off Tim that day. I'm guessing that's who managed to take it all the way.
You can get bad cards, but if you play the game right, if you know people, you can figure it. You can figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that's also
what the hell does that have to do? Okay, it's one thing to use the card analogy and say we've been dealt a hand in life, but then he just turns around and takes it just full on into here's how you win poker. You just need to know people. And I noticed that Tim is not the one to be talking about this because the person who won the big pot at the table he was at, he was just telling us, he described that in the third person. He's not winning those hands.
Representative of the American dream. This is part of the deterioration of the ideology that if I can make it here, I can make it anywhere, right? Like we were talking about this before we went on air.
Well, why exactly is that a good thing? I mean, the whole idea of if I can make it here, I can make it anywhere is that it is really hard to make it, where make it means have a certain amount, be able to have a comfortable existence with a roof and food and, you know, free time and people around you that you care about and stuff. That's what making, I mean, so why would it be a good thing for making it to be hard?
Right. Some of my backstory is like my mother was a crackhead. I was abandoned as a baby. I have a twin brother. My twin brother's in.
Somebody, a time traveler, apparently showed what kind of media he'd be working in, and nobody wanted anything to do with
jail
him, apparently.
doing 20 years for trying to murder me. Right. He got high on dust, broke into my apartment in 2010. I came home. He tried to kill me. I've been sober 14 years. We both had a lot of problems growing up. We both grew up hanging out on the streets. We were both drug dealers. I chose music, and then ultimately I chose recovery, and he chose to go a different path. That's what life is.
Yeah, because it's all totally up to just individual choices, right?
Life is about choices, right? And so I'm somebody who, you know, I know the power of making decisions and owning your decisions.
And let me just say, I mean, in the right-wing bullshitosphere, we should not take anyone's statements about their biography for granted. I don't even know this guy's name. Maybe everything he's saying is true, but I would not assume that it simply is. Because everybody in this fucking thing claims to be two things. One, a scrappy outsider, and two, self-made. And what that usually translates to is they got a $50 billion a year contract, and they started their media empire with seed money from daddy. So, yeah.
And that your life is based...
In fact, that's one of the best things about all this Steven Crowder drama. Like, a term that I normally don't like to use because it trivializes things that shouldn't be trivialized, but this is the most trivial bullshit ever. It is just trifling shit. So because Steven Crowder decided to leave in a huff over this contract, a contract that was offering him $70 million and didn't require him to acquire talents or become entertaining or funny or anything. He just had to continue being himself. Just the same, like, fucking asshole that makes the experience of a shitty sports bars all across the U.S. and Canada so remarkable. 70 million, and this has started this whole shitstorm in the right-wing media online, and people are like openly talking about the kind of contracts they've got. Like, I mean, just throwing around numbers like 50 million, 60 million and stuff like that, and it's like, yeah, you're not scrappy outsiders. You are so completely you are so completely bought.
Basically, where your life is going to go in America is based on how much responsibility you take on yourself. And this stuff that it continuously promotes self-victimization. And what happens to people who continuously victimize themselves, they never achieve anything.
What does it mean to victimize yourself, though? I mean, some people just, like, literally are victims a lot. Some people are just getting completely screwed over. That is kind of the point of the cards analogy that Tim was mangling a minute ago. That some people just start out with shitty chances in life because that's the kind of society we have.
Stay miserable and they look for someone else to blame, and you can get in a cycle of doing this your whole...
You mean sort of like you blame I mean, you're on this channel that all they do is blame black people and feminists and leftists, which they define to mean anyone to the left of fucking, like, Pinochet. They blame, all they're doing constantly is finding people to blame for their problems. That's literally their entire thing. And it's just, and meanwhile they're getting like 8-figure salaries for it.
Whole life will go by and you'll never do anything. Yep. Right? I call them barstool astronauts. Right? They're like, because that's what they do. I could have been could have been a salesman. It's a tough job, you know. It's like coffee is for closers, and it's
God, of course of course this is a room full of people who looked at that fucking movie, Glengarry Glen Ross, and whose takeaway from it was, wow, what a just sad, fucked up existence these guys have, where they're constantly being ground down for failing to screw people out of money to get them to buy shit they don't need, can't afford, and isn't any good for them. Yeah. And they're like, and he looks at that and is like, and he looks up to it. He's like, oh yeah, like to the fucking asshole Alec Baldwin character. Yeah, he's apparently, of course, these people would look up to the Alec Baldwin character
beyond race, right? Because how is it that I was able to come from where I came, sell millions of records, play in arenas, make friends all over the world, have
well, we see, there's no racism because occasionally black people will manage to get a record contract. That means there's no racism. That's how that works. That's totally how that works.
People love me. Little kids singing my songs, and
does anybody know any of the? I have no idea who this fucking guy is. Like, does anyone know any of his songs?
I take care of my mother. I financially take care of my whole family, right? And so I don't want to lose that, and I don't like this. I don't like this messaging for
who's taking it away from you?
African Americans. I don't like it for any Americans because it's a lie.
It is.
It's fundamentally teaching white people are bad and
no, it isn't.
African American people and minorities can never make it in this country.
Well, no, it's not actually saying that. It's saying that the society is designed to keep people who aren't white, male, straight, cis, etc. down. Yeah, and I forgot rich, yes. So the point isn't that there's like the claim isn't that there's something inherent in those groups of people you just list that means they can't make it. It's a problem with the society, which is why the idea is to change the fucking society. And I see it is time to wrap up, as scintillating as that discussion was. And let me just say thank you to everyone who has shown up in chat. It's always nice to see you. And if you enjoy the stream, please consider paying for the stream with a donation to the tip or to my tip command or the Patreon. But actually, give priority. I linked, scroll up and you'll find a link to Phoenix's fundraiser. Phoenix is having a really rough time at the moment and could definitely use the help. So actually, if you got money to hand out tonight, that would be a good place to go with that. Have a good night. See you next week.